What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy, CamATL, and welcome back to another NFL video with your boy. As you know, early in the week, we do the full look lineup. The early look lineup, where we put the full lineup together. We talk about those players that we're putting in the lineup, why we like those guys, and then we come in later in the week, do the full slate breakdown, position by position, talk about all the guys we are interested in, who we're not interested in, all that good stuff. I'm gonna try to not keep up too much of y'all's time. Just get straight to the point and go through this fairly quickly. Drop a like down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Comment anything in the comment section for that giveaway I do every single week on this channel. And thank you guys for joining me as always. Also, the NFL player prop tools got those good value guys popping already. I'm going to be going through and really adding some week 3 prize picks to the NFL access page today using that NFL player prop tool. Make sure y'all are refreshing that because a lot of it will be adjusting as the day goes on, and a lot of value will be popping in randomly. So as information comes out, news comes out, stuff like that, it'll really start adjusting. So make sure you keep up to that date with that. If you have the package, tomorrow is college football. Last weekend's college football changed some lives. It went absolutely berserk. We had members win thousands off college football last week, so super happy about that. It was a fantastic Saturday for us last weekend. Excited to run that right back with this one as well. And you get that with the NFL package as well. So just another reason to get that NFL access page at greenlightdfs.com. Anyway, let's get straight into it, y'all. I'm not going to keep up too much y'all's time. Let's go. Position by position, let's talk about it. So let's start off with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is my top overall projected quarterback. Okay. This game is in Washington, so maybe Washington can keep it somewhat competitive. Washington also is one of the worst defenses in the entire league. Okay. They're giving it up on the ground. They're giving it up through the air. Plain and simple. That's just a bad recipe for a guy like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts is going to come in and really do damage. All right. So I really love Jalen Hurts, especially when a Jared Goff can drop over 26 against this team. I worry about Washington's defense facing Jalen Hurts. I think Hurts is a fantastic option. I don't need to spend a ton of time on him. You already know if you can spend that money on him at 7-6, then go for it. I love Jalen Hurts this week. I think he's a fantastic play, and that should be no surprise of y'all's. All right, let's talk about this Buffalo Miami game. So Miami's pass defense has been really bad, as you can see with how well Baltimore was able to score on them last week. Now, Miami's offense has looked fantastic, but they also haven't faced a defense like Buffalo's. Buffalo's probably the best defense in the entire NFL. I worry a little bit about this game being as much of a shootout as I would want it to be. You know what I mean? Like, so in my opinion, the upside's capped a little bit with Allen because I'm not exactly sure. Y'all can let me know in the comments how y'all feel about it. I'm not exactly sure how Tua's going to handle this Buffalo defense. This defense is a whole nother level than what they've faced so far. So it's a definite tough spot. But if this game somehow can stay competitive, then it will be a huge game on both ends. But like I said, this Buffalo defense is fantastic. All right, so it is tough. I don't know exactly how close this game stays. Vegas has it only at a 5.5 spread. And if that's the case, if it does hold true to that, and that game stays within a touchdown, Josh Allen's going to continue to have to throw, and this could be an absolute shootout. And I do love Josh Allen in that situation. I'm not interested in Tua regardless because I'm just not going to play Tua against Buffalo. It's just not interesting to me. Tua's 6-1, so his price is decent, but there's just better options and better matchups. No reason to do that. But could this game be a shootout? Sure. My gut feels like it's just not an area I really want to attack. And if I do attack it, I want Josh Allen. If I don't play Josh Allen, I'm not really getting much exposure to the game. Plain and simple. All right. Uh, let's sort point per salary and really get to the value, guys, and get to the nitty gritty here. All right. So after we sort point per salary, we've got Geno Smith at the top, Matt Ryan. Let's talk about these two guys right here. Geno Smith is going against Atlanta. We already know how bad Atlanta's defense is. This is a fantastic matchup for Geno at 5K. I feel like Geno is a very solid option this week. I think he is a guy who could get you that good enough score at 5K. He hasn't been amazing this year, but if he can replicate what he did against Denver week 1 and get you around 17 or so, that's all you'll really need. And going against Atlanta, who has given up over 20 DraftKings points both times this season, you know, I mean, it is to Stafford. They gave up 20 to Stafford, which is pretty impressive, actually, that they held Stafford to 20. It does seem like Stafford's got a little bit of an issue with that elbow, like they talked about. We knew he had the issue with the elbow, but I mean, it does seem with the production he's put up so far that he is it's affecting something somehow. Um, but Geno Smith against Atlanta is just a solid point per dollar guy, as you can see. Now, the guy I side with in these value guys is Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan, hear me out. Hear me out. Matt Ryan's old. All right, Atlanta got rid of him for a reason. But hear me out here. He's at home in Indianapolis. I believe it's a dome, correct? Yeah, it's a dome. Okay, so he's at home in a dome. You guys know how much I love that. All right, at home in a dome, facing a Kansas City team that's been like 20 something ranked in past DVOA. All right, so they're giving up in the air, which there's a reason why, because they're getting up in games and the other offense is having to throw a ton to keep up. I see that exact scenario here. I see Matt Ryan falling behind early. I see him having to throw a ton in this game. And it's just plain and simple opportunity for Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan also should be getting Michael Pittman back. I do like that pairing. If Michael Pittman plays, I'm going to play it as if he's full go. He's had limited practices all week, so he should be good to go. Keep an eye on that situation, obviously. If Michael Pittman's out, that will hurt Matt Ryan a bit. If Michael Pittman's in, that's definitely going to help Matt Ryan a lot, giving him that weapon back. But at the end of the day, game script just screams Matt Ryan to me here. At home, 6 point underdog. Fantastic spot here for them. They did get blown out by Jacksonville last week, and he was behind and had plenty of opportunity to catch up and wasn't able to do anything with it. 3 interceptions, only 195 yards on 30 attempts. It's pathetic. 0 touchdowns. Like, that's horrible. But back at home in Indianapolis, I think this is their first home game, too. So his first home game in Indy, going against Kansas City, playing from behind, having to throw a lot, getting Michael Pittman back, which in week 1 with Michael Pittman, he did solid, scoring 20 against Houston. Take Michael Pittman out of that offense, as you see against Jacksonville, only 4 DraftKings points. He struggled a lot. I mean, look at what he had. The options he has to throw to if Michael Pittman's not out there is pathetic. So bringing Pittman back, which, like I said, I expect Pittman to be back. I like Matt Ryan a lot at 5-2. All right, I think he's a solid option. So really, my core of guys I'm most interested in is Jalen Hurts or Matt Ryan. That's my 2 guys I really, really like this week. Um, but there's definitely some other options I want to talk about. Let's talk about Mac Jones going against Baltimore, who obviously gave up a ton against Miami last week. My God, like the they gave up so much through the air to Tua last week. It was ridiculous. Now, Mac Jones doesn't have the targets Tua has. Tua's got the main guys. Tyreek Hill, he's got Waddle, who's amazing. He's got some great weapons. And Mac Jones isn't a guy who's going to really just destroy the stat sheet. But at 5-1, I feel like he's safe at home in New England against a Baltimore offense that just gave up 43 to Tua, gave up over 18 to Joe Flacco week 1. I think Mac Jones can fall into some value here at 5-1 as well. So him and Matt Ryan are solid value options. I do have Matt Ryan ahead, as you can see, 3.5 compared to a 3.3, but solid options still. I'm not playing Baker against New Orleans, gonna be completely honest with you. Trevor Lawrence against the Chargers is solid. You can. Kirk Cousins, I talked about Minnesota earlier on in the week. I think Minnesota could come in really wanting some revenge here. After what happened last week, I think Kirk Cousins could really come in and want to show out here back at home in Minnesota. He's got fantastic weapons to throw the ball to. Detroit gave up over 24 to Jalen Hurts and then over 31 to Carson Wentz. I think Kirk Cousins is a very solid option this week. If you play Kirk Cousins, make sure you pair him up with Jefferson. Make sure you pair him up with Irv Smith. Those guys, and make a little stack of it. Anyways, we've pretty much talked about the quarterbacks we're interested in. So let's stay point per salary and let's look. Leonard Fournette's at the top of the list. He's had some limited showings in practice this week, so make sure you keep an eye on that. If he doesn't go, obviously, we're going to have to find something else. But as of right now, I'm expecting Leonard Fournette to play. He came out on Twitter, as you guys know, apologizing to fantasy sport players, saying the touchdowns will come, and he apologized because he hasn't gotten in the end zone yet. Leonard Fournette has been pretty damn efficient on the ground this season. Now you take Mike Evans out, who's suspended for fighting Lattimore last week. You take him out. On top of that, you look at Green Bay's defense and you see their big time weakness on Green Bay's defense is their run defense. They're almost the bottom in the league in rushing DVOA, which is they're just giving up chunks to running backs, which would tell me Leonard Fournette should be in a very solid position here to succeed. I love Leonard Fournette this week at home in Tampa Bay. If he plays and he's not going to have any limitations, he's one of my favorite running backs this week. I think he gets in the end zone once, maybe twice. I think the fact that he's even thinking about the fact he hasn't gotten in the end zone, that's probably a conversation among them on the offense, and they really want to get Leonard Fournette in the end zone. So expect Leonard Fournette to get in that end zone this week and really put up some points. All right, because Leonard Fournette, 18 and 9, you add a touchdown in those, he's hit value first couple weeks already. In tough matchups against Dallas's improved defense with Michael Parsons in New Orleans, who's very good against the run. So Leonard Fournette's in a very solid position. Like I said, also a very positive matchup for him against Green Bay. Fantastic spot. David Montgomery at 5'9". Talked about him in the first look lineup. I love David Montgomery this week, man, going against Houston. I love it. He's in a fantastic position here, man. He's one of my favorite value plays of the week. Houston's defense is atrocious. Obviously, they're not ready to, unlock Justin Fields and let him just take control. So David Montgomery is going to be a focal point of this offense to get going. Great matchup against Houston, like I said. I'm all over David Montgomery at 5'9". I absolutely love him this week. Joe Mixon. Now, the Jets have not been horrible versus the run. They haven't given up a ton of yards on the ground, but they have given up a ton of touchdowns to running backs, and mainly because of Nick Chubb last week, getting in the end zone, I believe, 3 times. Joe Mixon's in a fantastic spot here, though. I'm expecting Cincinnati to be ahead. I could see easily, though, let me make this clear. I could easily see how this game script ends up going negatively for Joe Mixon here. It's in New York. Cincinnati's offensive line has been bad, so holes aren't really opening for Joe as easily as he would want them to. It's the same kind of issue they had last season. Joe Mixon is going to have big games throughout the season. No doubt. He's too talented not to. The Jets have been very solid giving up rushing yards, and if he doesn't get the touchdowns, if he doesn't get a couple touchdowns, he might not hit value for us at 7-6. So if you want to pivot off of him, as you can see, I have Dalvin Cook really close here as well. Dalvin Cook has yet to have a huge game, right? Let me see. Let me check on Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook has a 13 and a 7 DraftKings points this year so far. Dalvin Cook has yet to really unleash. All right, this game script screams Dalvin Cook to me. They're 6-point favorites. They're at home. It's one of those moments where I'm like, you know what? It's probably time to let Dalvin eat here. All right, Dalvin Cook, the last time he faced this Detroit defense, dropped 42 DraftKings points, got 206 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns on 22 carries. Expect that same kind of game script to where he's going to need to touch the ball that many times. All right, so I love Dalvin Cook a ton. I think pivoting off of Joe Mixon to Dalvin Cook makes a ton of sense. I do like Joe Mixon. As you see, he grades out point per dollar as a solid play this week. But just keep in mind that the Jets have a solid DVOA versus the run. They haven't given up a ton of rushing yards. They have given up some touchdowns, but mainly because of Chubb really inflating that off 3 in 1 week. I believe he got 3 last week. So I want to mention this. I love Joe Mixon, but if Joe Mixon is going to be incredibly high chalk, I'm completely fine with getting off of Joe Mixon to Dalvin Cook or getting off of Joe Mixon to one of these other guys. Okay? I'm perfectly fine with that. And I probably will do that. If it looks like Joe Mixon's super chalky, I'm willing to take a stab on a lower owned Dalvin Cook in a more plus matchup. Because like I said, the matchup's not ideal. Now, what do we need for this to work out here? We need Cincinnati to all of a sudden, their offensive line to start working. We need Cincinnati to get the lead and keep that game script positive for Joe Mixon. With the game being in New York, I don't know. Let's see. Vegas has Cincinnati as 6-point favorites, which should give Joe Mixon a solid floor. If it does in fact go that way, Joe Mixon's gotten 21 and 11 the first 2 weeks. We just plain and simple need more than that. He got 11 last week against Dallas, and then his price has jumped up 400 going against the Jets, who just got murdered by Nick Chubb. Okay, but they didn't give up a ton of rushing yards, and that's the thing you need to keep in mind here. All right, so it's a tough decision. Joe Mixon is a solid play. I think Joe Mixon is a guy who will get in the end zone. I do have to believe he will get. Will he get in the end zone, and will that make it enough to where he hits value at 7.6, or would you rather just go with Dalvin Cook, who has the game script plus, he's got the matchup plus, he's at home, so that is a tough decision. Honestly, I came into this video saying, yeah, Joe Mixon's probably my favorite, one of my favorite running backs, but I think as I've been talking about it, I've actually kind of started leaning as I'm talking to Dalvin Cook being over Joe Mixon. Um, just off of situational, like just off situation here. I get Dalvin Cook hasn't really gotten the touches that we like to see out of Dalvin, but week one he did get 20 carries in a game where they were pretty much ahead of Green Bay most of the time. All right, he got 20 carries. Expect them to be ahead here in this Detroit game, and him to also once again get 20 carries again. In the bright spot, that's also great about Dalvin: 5 targets week one, 6 targets week two. He's getting targets in the pass game. So if he's getting the 20 carries, he's getting them plenty of targets in the pass game. Remember, he got 20 carries, 90 rushing yards, 5 targets in week one, and didn't even get in the end zone. If he gets in the end zone, he easily hits value. You know what I'm saying? So opportunity is there for my boy. I think Dalvin Cook's gonna have a solid game. So I'm leaning Dalvin Cook over Joe Mixon at the moment. All right, Josh Jacobs grades out as a solid value. Antonio Gibson should get involved in the pass game a little bit here, with Washington most likely being playing from behind. I don't love it because the game script just doesn't scream an Antonio Gibson game very much to me, but he's fine. Jonathan Taylor, they're once again, this is another situation where they're going to be behind. I'm not interested in much of the run. Cordero Patterson is a guy I'm very interested in for Atlanta against Seattle. Solid matchup here. Should be a competitive game. Neither team should get ahead by much. Cordell Patterson gets involved in both the pass and he gets the carries on the ground, so I like him. Christian McCaffrey's got a tough matchup against New Orleans this week. Obviously, anytime. You can play Derrick Henry at any time. He's always in play. You're having to spend a little bit on him, though, but in this matchup against Las Vegas, it should be a good one here for him at home. I really like Derrick Henry. I think he has a solid game this week. Austin Eckler's in a solid position. But that's about it, man. My core guys: Leonard Fournette, Montgomery, Mixon, Dalvin Cook, or spend up for a Derrick Henry I really like. Brees Hall could be sneaky in a way. But outside of that, that's my main core of running backs. All right. Wide receiver at the top of the list, it seems to always be Cooper Kupp, and for good reason. I mean, this dude's just utilized so heavily in this offense. I remember last week we had Cooper Kupp, and I was like, oh my God, this dude going to let me down? Like, what is going on? He's got one target in like the first half. And then all of a sudden, he just goes crazy. He ends up getting to like 30. It's pretty crazy. But I love this position. At 9.9 though, on my builds so far for this week, I haven't had a ton of them. I love Cooper Kupp, but at 9.9, I mean, man, I haven't had a ton. All right, I do want to talk about Jacoby Myers, especially if you have their quarterback. If you play the quarterback for New England, for some reason I'm blanking on his name, but whatever. Jacoby Myers, pair him up with the quarterback for New England in a game where they should be having to throw to keep up with Baltimore. And Baltimore's been giving it up through the air, as we saw with Miami, what Miami did. And at 5K, I like Jacoby Myers and him together. Michael Pittman, if you play Matt Ryan, pair him up with Michael Pittman. If you love Matt Ryan as a value, you think he can reach 20 at home, especially with Michael Pittman back, which I do believe is possible. I love the Matt Ryan Pittman pairing this week against Kansas City. I think they're a solid pairing. I think he's going to get a ton of targets in this offense. Once again, coming back, make sure he's a full go. Not going to be limited in any way, but if he's a full go, ready to go for week 3, then I think Michael Pittman's in a very solid position. Amon-Ra St. Brown, every single week I'm going to tell you should play Amon-Ra St. Brown. Play Dalvin Cook, run it back with some Amon-Ra St. Brown. I love this position for them here because if you have Dalvin Cook, then you're predicting Minnesota to be up, which I do feel like is the case. So playing Dalvin Cook in that situation with Minnesota up is a great position. And then in that same thought process, Detroit's obviously down and having to throw a lot to Amon-Ra St. Brown. So I like the pairing of Dalvin Cook and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Very solid position here for Amon-Ra. Dude's one of the best receivers in the league this year, PPR wise, and I mean his targets you just can't doubt him. Keenan Allen, a solid spot for him as well at 6'5". He's just highly used in this offense. And in PPR, he's always going to be a solid option. Justin Jefferson, if you play Kirk Cousins, got to run some Justin Jefferson. Jalen Waddle against Buffalo, sure. I think Buffalo's probably focused more on trying to stop Tyreek Hill from doing a ton of damage than they are really trying to worry about Waddle. I think if anybody's going to break out for Miami, it could be Jalen Waddle here against Buffalo, but the matchup's just not there for a 6'8 wide receiver. I'm just not feeling that a ton. I'm really, really, really not. Now, a lot of receivers, what I've noticed this week, a lot of receivers are priced up, man. There's not a ton of like super cheap value. Obviously, with Mike Evans out, you can target some Tampa Bay value. It's just still a question mark on these guys. We have to see if these guys are going to play or not. Julio Jones still has yet to practice. Um, Let me see the other options for Tampa Bay real quick. Russell Gage is questionable. He's getting limited sessions in. If Russell Gage plays, whoever's active for Tampa Bay's receiving core is in play. Outside of Leonard Fournette, whoever's active for Tampa Bay is in play. Brashad Perryman, what's his price this week? Brashad Perryman's 3.9. He is questionable as well, been getting limited showings in. I expect with Mike Evans being out, Perryman and Gage probably both play. Especially if Gage misses and Julio misses again. I love Brashad Perryman again at 3.9. I think he's a fantastic option this week. Zay Jones at 4K grades out a solid point per dollar for me. Marvin Jones grades out solid point per dollar. Christian Kirk has been getting so much usage here. And in a game in Los Angeles, Jacksonville's probably going to be playing from behind. The game script's going to be positive for Christian Kirk. I love that position for him. But that's about it, man. We've talked about the main guys that we like at wide receiver. Let's move on to tight end. At tight end, I really like Irv Smith Jr., especially if you're going the Kirk Cousins, Kirk Cousins, Jefferson route and pairing with Irv Smith. Awesome. If you're doing that route, don't play Dalvin. I'm kind of leaning more on the Dalvin side of the game. Like, I don't know. Obviously, Cousins, Jefferson are a fantastic pairing this week, but you're having to pay for that pairing really a good bit. I kind of like more of grabbing the running back there. I kind of like more of grabbing Dalvin. I think Dalvin's finally going to have that breakout big game here against Detroit. And like I said, that 20 carries he got week one in a positive game script for him and the targets in the pass game. He gets that again here. He can get in the end zone a couple times, get over 100 rushing yards. It could be a big game out of Dalvin Cook. And like I said, if all the ownership's on Joe Mixon, get off of that, go Dalvin as a pivot. All right, especially with the numbers telling us that Jets aren't exactly the best matchup you can ask for. All right, but outside of that, Zach Ertz obviously is going to be in play again with the Arizona once again at home, playing from behind most likely. Ertz is going to once again be a solid play at 4.6. I love him. I love the value of Irv Smith at tight end. He's my favorite value at tight end in that position. If you play Matt Ryan, Kalen Granson is a guy that I'm interested in as a value at 2.7. That's that Matt Ryan, Michael Pittman, Granson stack. Maybe run back with one of those Kansas City guys. But I do like that stack of Matt Ryan, Pittman, and Granson because you're getting all those guys at a decent price. Well, Pittman's priced up, but Matt Ryan and Granson are a very low pairing. And if you want to just pair up Matt Ryan with Granson and spend up other players, that's fine too. If you want to decide to go that route, especially if Pittman's going to be limited, then Granson's going to get even more of an opportunity. But keep in mind that last week, Kalen Granson was without Michael Pittman in the offense. All right. Now with Michael Pittman coming back, that's going to hurt Granson. All right. Last week, Granson, not like he did amazing. He only got 2 targets, 2 receptions. But remember, week 1, he got 7 targets. So Michael Pittman being there helped him. So it's an interesting spot for Granson as value. I love Irv Smith as value. And then if you're spending up at a solid amount, Zach Ertz, Tyler Higbee, solid options. TJ Hawkinson in a game where Detroit should be behind against Minnesota. All these guys right here are in my game, are in my player pool. When it comes to defense, man, there's just you guys know how I feel about defense, man. Defense, just spend down, grab some value. I don't care too much about defense, to be honest with you. I think the Eagles are a solid defense option at 2-9 against Washington. I think that the Panthers are a serviceable defense at home in Carolina against New Orleans. Um, the Ravens, maybe. The Rams could do some damage. The Dolphins, nah. At 2-2, it's just they're so cheap they grade out as a solid point per dollar with that, but not against Buffalo. I'm not too interested in that at 2-2. Uh, the Cardinals, nah. It's just defense, man. It's just I'd probably lean the Panthers at 2-6 at home against New Orleans. A lot of times, if I go a value defense, I want the guy at home. That's why the Dolphins are probably grading out decent, and the Cardinals, because they're both low 2Ks and at home, and they might be able to get some interceptions or some type of turnovers in some way to hit value okay. But in my opinion, it's probably the Panthers at home against New Orleans. Much better matchup against that New Orleans offense than Miami against Buffalo or Cardinals against the Rams. Chargers against Jacksonville, but you're having to spend 3-9 on that. No, thank you. So yeah, Panthers really for me as a punt defense. Falcons against Seattle, or even Seattle at 2-7 against Atlanta. You could go both those routes as well. The Bears, but you're having to spend on them. No, thank you. The highest projected defense is the Chargers against Jacksonville at 3-9. The highest projected value defense is the Titans against Las Vegas. The Eagles. I do like the Eagles at 2-8 as well. So I'm leaning the Eagles, the Panthers because they're at home in a serviceable matchup, or spending up for the Chargers if you just have extra money and just want to say, you know what, let me get the top overall defense here in this situation. I think Tua could definitely cause a ton of turnovers against this Bills D. This Bills defense is amazing. I'm not exactly sure how much of a shootout this turns out to be, but I'm not going to predict 100% one way or the other because it easily could be a shootout. I could see how it could be a shootout, and I could also see how Buffalo just completely dominates. So we'll see what happens. But that's about it, y'all. Hopefully I was able to help. Hopefully we were able to really touch on everything. Yeah, I'm really loving this week 3 slate. I'm excited to get into it. Once again, I'm excited for this college football slate tomorrow. Very exciting. I just, the whole reason that we're in this and do this is to literally change people's lives, give people that opportunity to have that big win. And every single time we put a line out, we have that opportunity. So I'm super excited about that. MLB tonight, college football tomorrow, week 3 Sunday. All right, let's get it, y'all. Have a good weekend. I'm out.